His breath was warm against my neck. The room was dim, and the air between us trembled with everything forbidden. I could hear my own heartbeat racing against the silence as his hands traced the skin I once promised belonged to another man. I wanted to stop him. I truly did. But my body betrayed my vows before my conscience could speak. And in that moment, when our lips met and I gave in, I felt something inside me shatter. It was not lust that burned me that night. It was guilt wearing the disguise of passion. Before I dive in, I want to pause for a second to appreciate everyone watching this. Thank you so much to all my subscribers. Your love, your time, and your comments keep this channel alive. And to every new or returning viewer who has not yet subscribed, I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button. It truly serves as the fuel and energy that keeps me creating stories like this one for you. Please remember to engage and share your thoughts in the comments right after this hook. You know I love hearing from you. Now, let us begin. I am Claire Donovan, 35 years old, a wife of 9 years, and a mother of 2 beautiful girls. I live in a quiet suburb in Georgia, the kind of place where neighbors wave from driveways and everyone pretends their marriages are perfect. Mine was one of those marriages, or at least it looked that way from the outside. My husband, Ethan, was everything a woman could ask for. Steady, patient, kind. He worked long hours as a project manager for a construction company, always chasing deadlines and conference calls. He never shouted, never hit, never humiliated me. He was simply good. Too good, maybe. But goodness, I learned, does not always feel like love when your heart starts craving something else. It began slowly, like a whisper I kept trying to ignore. The loneliness crept in between the spaces of his busy schedule and my empty evenings. We had grown comfortable, maybe too comfortable. The kisses became routine, the conversations predictable, and intimacy, well, it became something we scheduled instead of felt. And then came Ryan. He was a fitness trainer at the gym I joined one summer. Tall, dark-haired, with that easy smile that seemed to say he noticed everything about you. He was the kind of man who made ordinary words sound intimate. "You are doing great," he would say, placing his hand lightly on my back during a stretch. And somehow that simple touch sent a current through me that I could not explain. At first, I told myself it was innocent. I was married and he was just being friendly. But deep down, something inside me woke up. Something I had buried under years of motherhood, laundry, and dinner plans. Weeks passed, and our conversations grew longer. He asked about my life, my dreams, my marriage. I told him things I had never told anyone, not even Ethan. I confessed how I missed feeling desired, how I felt invisible most days. He listened, really listened, and when he looked at me, it felt like the world around us disappeared. One rainy Friday evening, I stayed late after my workout. The gym was nearly empty. The rain fell against the windows, and Ryan offered to wait with me until the storm calmed down. We sat on the edge of the mat, laughing about something silly, but the air between us grew heavy. His eyes lingered on mine, then dropped to my lips. And before I could think, his hand brushed a strand of wet hair from my face. I should have walked away, but instead, I froze. My breath caught, my pulse quickened, and my heart whispered something I should never have listened to. When he leaned in and kissed me, I did not resist. It was soft at first, hesitant, almost tender, then deeper. His hands moved to my waist, drawing me closer, and I felt every vow I had made unravel inside me. The sound of the rain faded, replaced by the rhythm of our breathing. My wedding ring pressed cold against his skin, a cruel reminder that I was someone's wife. I told myself to stop. I told myself that Ethan deserved better. But my loneliness screamed louder than my guilt. And before I knew it, I was lost in something that felt too powerful to control. When it ended, reality hit like ice water. I pulled away, trembling. I could not even look at him. My heart was pounding, but not from passion, from shame. "Claire," he said softly, his voice almost tender, "you do not have to be sorry." But I was. I left the gym that night soaked in rain and regret. My reflection in the car window looked like a stranger. My lips still tasted like betrayal, and my soul felt heavier than ever. When I reached home, Ethan was sitting on the couch, half asleep, waiting for me. The television flickered softly, casting light across his tired face. He looked up and smiled. "You're home late. Everything all right?" I nodded quickly, forcing a smile.
Yes.
"Just got caught in the rain." He stood up, wrapped me in his arms, and whispered, "I missed you." And right there, inside that embrace, I felt the full weight of what I had done. His arms were warm. His love was real. And I had shattered it without him even knowing. That night, while he slept beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. I could still feel Ryan's touch burning on my skin, like a stain I could not wash away. Guilt clawed at my chest, but mixed with it was something darker. Fear. Fear that what started as one mistake might soon spiral into something I could never undo. I did not know it then, but that kiss, the one that felt like a secret, was only the beginning of my undoing. Because sometimes the real heartbreak does not come when you cheat. It comes when you finally see the look in your husband's eyes after he discovers that you did. The morning after that night felt like waking from a dream I wished I could erase. The sunlight spilling through the curtains felt too honest, too bright for the darkness I carried inside. Ethan's arm was draped across my waist, gentle and protective. I stared at his hand, the same hand that had held mine at the altar, that had built our life, that had never once hurt me. And all I could think was, how could I? I slipped quietly out of bed, my heart pounding as if afraid he could hear the guilt thudding inside my chest. In the bathroom mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back. My eyes looked hollow. My lips still felt bruised with memory. No amount of washing could scrub away the ache that clung to me. That morning, I made breakfast as usual. Pancakes, eggs, and coffee, Ethan's favorite. He sat at the table scrolling through his phone, telling me about a new project he was managing. I nodded and smiled in all the right places, pretending to listen, pretending to be the same woman he married. But every word he spoke sounded distant, muffled beneath the roar of my conscience. He leaned over the counter to kiss me goodbye before work. When his lips touched mine, something inside me broke all over again. His kiss was soft, trusting, familiar, and I could not meet his eyes afterward. I mumbled something about being tired, and he left with that easy smile I used to love. The moment the door shut, I sank to the floor. I wanted to cry, but tears felt useless. Crying could not undo what I had done. I told myself it was just one mistake, one moment of weakness that would never happen again. I swore to myself I would bury it, lock it away, and love my husband harder than ever. But secrets, they do not stay buried. They rot from the inside out. Days turned into weeks, and my guilt grew heavier. Every time Ethan reached for my hand, I flinched inside. Every time he told me he loved me, I wanted to scream the truth just to stop drowning in silence. And then there was Ryan. I saw him at the gym again a few days later. He smiled like nothing had changed, like that night had been inevitable. I avoided his eyes, but he followed me after class. When I went to grab my bag, his voice stopped me. "Are you going to pretend it did not happen?" He asked softly. "I need to," I whispered. "I am married, Ryan. It was wrong."
He smiled, slow, knowing.
"Maybe wrong, but it was real. You cannot fake what we felt that night." I walked away without answering, but his words followed me home like a shadow. From that day, things started to shift. He began sending messages, small at first. Compliments.
Jokes.
Then late-night texts that made my heart skip for all the wrong reasons. I tried to ignore him, but temptation always finds a way back into the cracks of weakness. One evening, Ethan noticed. He was sitting beside me on the couch when my phone buzzed. I picked it up too quickly. His eyes caught the movement, sharp with quiet suspicion. "Who is that?" he asked casually. "Just a friend from the gym," I said too fast. Something changed in his face, barely noticeable, but it was there. He nodded slowly, and I knew that in that moment, a seed of doubt had been planted. That night, I could not sleep. I lay beside him listening to the sound of his breathing, feeling the distance I had created grow wider with every lie. A week later, Ryan confronted me in the parking lot after my workout. His tone was different this time, harder, impatient. "I cannot keep pretending this means nothing, Claire," he said. "I want to see you again. Alone." "I told you it was a mistake," I whispered, glancing around to be sure no one was near. "Please do not do this." His eyes narrowed. "Then what was it to you? Just a little escape? A fantasy to keep you entertained before you go home to him?" His words stung because they were true. I had used him to fill a void I refused to name. "I am sorry," I said quietly, "but I cannot do this anymore." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Then maybe your husband deserves to know who his perfect wife really is." My stomach dropped. I stared at him, unable to speak. "Ryan, do not." He walked away, leaving me frozen in the rain-soaked parking lot, trembling. I drove home that night with shaking hands, terrified that every sound behind me was his car following. My mind raced with panic, shame, and desperation. When I reached home, Ethan was sitting at the kitchen table. He looked up when I entered, his eyes filled with quiet concern. "You look pale," he said. "Everything all right?" I nodded, forcing a weak smile. "Just tired." But my voice cracked and he noticed. He stood up and touched my arm gently. "Claire, what is going on? You have been distant lately." I wanted to tell him everything right there. I wanted to fall to my knees, confess, and beg for forgiveness. But instead, I lied again. "I am fine, Ethan. I promise." He studied me for a moment before nodding slowly. "All right. But please, whatever it is, do not shut me out." When he walked away, my heart shattered. He had no idea he was already shut out, locked behind a door I had built with guilt and fear. The next few days were torture. I could not eat, could not sleep. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped. I kept imagining Ryan showing up at Ethan's workplace or sending a message that would destroy everything. Then one afternoon, as I folded laundry in the bedroom, Ethan walked in holding my phone. His expression was unreadable. "Ryan from the gym," he said quietly. "He just sent you a message." My blood turned to ice. He handed me the phone, but his eyes never left mine. The message was simple. "We need to talk. I cannot let this go." Ethan's voice broke the silence. "Is there something you want to tell me, Claire?" I could not speak. My mouth opened, but no words came out. His jaw tightened. For the first time in years, I saw pain in his eyes, real pain. "Who is he to you?" he asked. I shook my head, tears burning my eyes. "It is not what you think." "Then tell me what it is," he said, his voice trembling. I looked at the man who had loved me through everything, the man who never stopped believing in me, and I lied one last time. "He is just a friend. I will handle it." Ethan stared at me for a long moment. Then he nodded and walked out of the room. That night, he did not come to bed. I sat alone in the dark, listening to the sound of the clock ticking on the wall, knowing time was running out. My secret was no longer safe. The truth was bleeding through the cracks, and soon, everything I loved would drown in it. Because no matter how carefully you hide sin, it always finds its way into the light. The silence in our home became unbearable. Days stretched into nights where Ethan and I spoke only when necessary. The warmth that once filled our rooms was replaced by something cold and sharp, like invisible glass we both kept walking on. I tried to fix things, cooked his favorite meals, asked about his day, smiled as if I could pretend our marriage was not rotting beneath the surface, but he could see through it. He stopped looking at me the same way. There was no hatred in his eyes, just heartbreak and confusion. The kind that says, "I want to believe you, but I no longer can." The weight of the secret was suffocating me. Every sound, every look, every word felt like a reminder that the truth was coming. I knew Ryan would not stop. And I knew I could not keep lying. One evening, Ethan came home late from work. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. I sat at the dining table, staring at the wedding photo hanging on the wall, the one where I looked radiant in white, smiling up at the man who believed I would love him forever. My heart clenched. I could not carry this guilt another day. When he walked in, I could see exhaustion in his face. He dropped his keys on the counter and said softly, "We need to talk." I swallowed hard. "Yes," I whispered. "We do." He sat down across from me. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The silence was heavy with everything that had been building between us. Then, he said quietly, "Claire, I already know." My chest tightened. "What do you mean?" He looked down at his hands. "Ryan called me." The words hit like a blow. I felt my entire body go cold. "He told me everything," Ethan said, his voice trembling slightly. "He said you were seeing each other, that it happened at the gym, that you told him you were unhappy." Tears blurred my vision. "Ethan, please." He stood up suddenly, pacing the room. "I defended you, Claire. I told him he was lying. But then I looked at you and I knew. I saw it in your eyes." My sobs came uncontrollably. "It was one night," I said through tears. "I was lonely and I was stupid. I swear it meant nothing." He turned toward me, his expression a mixture of pain and disbelief. "One night? Do you really think that makes it better?" I could not answer. The silence between us was louder than any argument. He sank into the chair, covering his face with his hands. His shoulders shook, and for the first time in our marriage, I saw my husband cry. The sound broke something inside me. "I gave you everything," he said, his voice cracking. "All I ever wanted was for you to feel loved. Was I that blind?" "No," I whispered. "You loved me more than I deserved." He looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. "Why, Claire? Why him?" There was no way to explain it without sounding cruel. Ryan was not better. He was just there when Ethan was not. He was the illusion of attention I thought I needed. "I do not know," I said softly. "I wish I could go back. I wish I could erase it. But I cannot." Ethan stood, his expression distant. "I need time," he said quietly. "I cannot even look at you right now." When he left the room, I collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. The house that once felt safe now felt like a punishment. I had destroyed the only man who had ever truly loved me. The next few weeks were the longest of my life. Ethan slept in the guest room. We spoke only about the children, and even then, our words were clipped and cold. I stopped going to the gym. I blocked Ryan's number. I avoided the mirror because I could not stand the woman staring back at me. Every day, I prayed for forgiveness. Not just from God, but from Ethan. One Sunday morning, he came into the kitchen. I was making coffee, my hands trembling as I poured. He stood there for a moment, silent. Then he said, "I met with an elder from our congregation yesterday." I froze. He continued, "I told him everything. I needed guidance, because I do not know how to stop hurting." I turned toward him slowly. His eyes were red, but calmer. "What did he say?" "He told me that forgiveness is not a feeling. It is a choice." He took a deep breath. He said that sometimes love demands we fight through the pain, even when we want to run. Tears filled my eyes. "Ethan, I do not deserve your forgiveness." He stepped closer, his voice trembling. "Maybe not. But I need to forgive you if I ever want peace." I broke down crying. "I will spend the rest of my life proving I can be the woman you believed I was." He nodded slowly. "Then start by being honest. No more secrets." For the first time in weeks, he reached for my hand. His touch was hesitant, almost uncertain, but it was there, warm, real, alive. Rebuilding was not instant. It took months of counseling, prayers, and nights of painful honesty. Some days he could not look at me without anger flashing across his face. Other days, he held me as I cried. The road to healing was jagged and slow, but I learned that true love is not measured by perfection. It is measured by endurance. One night, months later, we sat together on the porch, watching the sunset. The sky was painted in gold and crimson, the same colors as the bouquet I held on our wedding day. Ethan reached for my hand again and said quietly, "I still love you, Claire. But it will take time before I can trust you completely." "I know," I whispered. "And I will wait for that day, no matter how long it takes." He looked at me for a long moment, then leaned in and kissed me. It was not the same as before. This kiss was fragile, careful, filled with history and pain. But it was also filled with hope. I realized then that forgiveness is not about forgetting the betrayal. It is about choosing love despite it. And though I broke my vows once, I vowed again that night, not to a man, but to the truth. To never betray love again. To never trade faithfulness for loneliness. And to never let guilt be the language of my heart.